Have you ever paused to ponder what our world might look like if World War III were to break out? An unimaginable scenario, yet one that has been a topic of speculation for decades. This question carries with it a weight that could bring a chill to even the most stoic among us. It's not a question of mere curiosity, but rather an examination of humanity's resilience, our capacity for destruction, and our undying hope for peace. Imagine, if you will, a timeline diverging from our own, where the unthinkable has happened, a world where the Cold War turned hot, where alliances shifted like sand beneath the feet, and where the global order was irrevocably altered. It's a timeline that's both a warning and a call to action. So, let's delve into the realm of hypotheticals, and explore what could happen if World War III were to occur. It's a journey into the unknown, but one that might just give us a clearer understanding of our present. In our hypothetical timeline, the spark that ignites World War III is not a singular event, but an accumulation of tensions. Let's journey into this imaginary world where the seeds of war are sown not overnight, but over time. Picture a world where escalating political tensions, territorial disputes, and economic crises are the norm. This isn't a world born from the ashes of a single catastrophic event, but rather, it's a world molded by the constant friction of nations, ideologies, and resources. Imagine, if you will, a scenario where political tensions reach a fever pitch. The global stage is a chessboard, with nations maneuvering for power and influence. Ideological differences become more than just talking points. They become battle lines drawn in the sand. The world watches as diplomatic dialogues turn into heated debates and then, tragically, into threats of war. Now, envision territorial disputes becoming increasingly volatile. The world map is a patchwork quilt of contested areas, each piece carrying the weight of historical claims, cultural significance, or strategic value. These disputes, once settled through negotiation or international arbitration, now spark violent confrontations. Every border, every island, every resource-rich region becomes a potential flashpoint for war. In this world, economic crises are not just numbers on a screen or headlines in a newspaper. They are lived experiences of scarcity, inequality, and desperation. A world where the wealth of nations is held hostage by trade wars, sanctions, and currency manipulations. The global economy, once a platform for cooperation and progress, now serves as a battleground where nations wage economic warfare. This is a world on edge, a world where the stakes are high and the room for error is almost non-existent. It's a world where the diplomatic chess game, territorial disputes, and economic struggles are not isolated events, but interconnected threads in a complex tapestry of global tension. These tensions, left unresolved, eventually reach a breaking point, leading to an all-out global conflict. This is the spark that ignites World War III in our hypothetical timeline. As the world plunges into war, nations must align, strategize, and mobilize. As the drums of war echo across the continents, countries scramble to form alliances, each hoping to tip the balance of power in their favor. Alliances, however, are not just about numbers. They are about shared values, common goals, and mutual trust. In this hypothetical World War III, alliances could be built on the bedrock of shared economic interests, common enemies, or a collective desire for survival. In the East, for example, we might see an alliance of nations bound together by economic interdependence and shared geopolitical interests. In the West, a coalition of democracies could form, united by their common values and a shared commitment to freedom and human rights. And in the middle, smaller nations might band together in a bid to preserve their sovereignty and independence amid the global turmoil. But alliances are only the beginning. Once formed, these coalitions would need to strategize, planning not just for victory on the battlefield, but for survival in a world at war. Every nation, big or small, would need to consider its strengths and weaknesses, its resources and capabilities, and the potential risks and rewards of various military strategies. In the age of nuclear weapons and cyber warfare, the strategies of this hypothetical World War III would likely be far more complex than those of the past. Nations might seek to cripple their enemies, not just through conventional warfare, but through cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, economic sanctions, and psychological warfare. As nations align and strategize, the world would see an unprecedented mobilization of troops and resources. Across the globe, factories would shift from producing consumer goods to manufacturing weapons. Entire economies would be reoriented towards the war effort, and millions of people would be called upon to serve in the military. Yet, as the world mobilizes for war, we must not forget the potential impact on civilians globally. In World War II, civilians were often the most affected, with millions losing their lives, homes, and families. In a hypothetical World War III, the potential for civilian suffering would be even greater, given the advancements in weaponry and the potential for widespread destruction. In this grim scenario, the world would see not just the mobilization of armies but the mobilization of entire societies. Every man, woman, and child would be affected in some way, whether through direct involvement in the war, the loss of loved ones, or the economic and social upheaval that war brings. In this grim scenario, the world as we know it changes drastically and irreversibly. The familiar contours of our world would be redrawn by the harsh lines of conflict, and the echoes of war would reverberate long after the last shot is fired. We must remember that while war may shape history, its true cost is often borne by those who have the least to do with its causes. In the aftermath of World War III, the world is left scarred and shattered. Imagine, if you will, a globe ravaged by the ravages of a Third World War. The loss of life would be immense, potentially in the billions, a scale of tragedy that is almost impossible to comprehend. Entire cities could be wiped off the map, leaving only ghostly echoes of their former vibrancy. The devastation wouldn't stop at the human toll. Economically, the world would be in ruins. The global economy, so intricately interconnected, would collapse like a house of cards. Nations rich in resources today might find themselves impoverished, their wealth obliterated in the blink of an eye. The rebuilding process would be slow and painful, a stark reminder of the cost of war. In the political landscape, the fallout of World War III would also be profound. Power dynamics would shift, alliances would crumble, and new world orders might emerge from the ashes. The map of the world as we know it could change dramatically. Borders could be redrawn, nations could dissolve, and new states could form in the wake of the conflict. The social impact, too, would be far-reaching. Entire cultures could be lost, their histories and traditions erased in the devastation. The psychological trauma inflicted on the survivors would be immeasurable, echoing through generations. The war could breed a new era of fear and mistrust, making international cooperation more difficult than ever. Yet in the face of such devastation, humanity has a remarkable capacity for resilience. New societies would eventually rise from the ruins, shaped by the shared experience of the war. Technological advancement might even accelerate, driven by the necessity of rebuilding. In the aftermath, we might see a renewed commitment to peace, a collective realization of the horrors of war. Perhaps this could lead to a stronger global community, united by the shared scars of the past. The world, post-World War III, would be a drastically different place, marked by the scars of conflict. Though this scenario is purely hypothetical, it serves as a stark reminder of the horrors of war. As we delve into the annals of history, we find ourselves faced with two colossal conflicts that shook the very foundations of humanity: the First and Second World Wars. They were periods of immense suffering, loss, and devastation, the likes of which we can scarcely imagine today. Yet, they also served as turning points, teaching us invaluable lessons about the dire consequences of unchecked aggression, the perils of nationalism run amok, and the profound cost of global conflict. The First World War, a complex web of alliances and rivalries, started with a single spark and spiraled into a global conflagration. It taught us the dangers of entangling alliances and the domino effect they can have in escalating conflicts. The Second World War, on the other hand, showed us the horrifying extremes that ideologies of hate and exclusion can reach when given power, and the catastrophic effects of technological advances in warfare. These wars were not just about the battles fought or the territories won and lost. They were about the human cost, the lives lost, the families torn apart, the societies shattered. They taught us that war is not just a political or military event, but a human tragedy on an unimaginable scale. So as we consider the hypothetical scenario of a Third World War, we must remember these lessons. We must remember that our actions, our decisions, our ideologies have the potential to either build bridges or ignite flames. We must remember that in an age of nuclear weapons and cyber warfare, the stakes are higher than ever before. We need to harness the power of dialogue, diplomacy, and cooperation in resolving our differences. We need to remember that our strength lies not in our ability to wage war, but in our capacity to promote peace and understanding. In a world that's more interconnected than ever, it's crucial that we learn from history and work together to ensure a peaceful future.